My family abandoned my son, then I returned as the CEO who secretly controlled their company. The air in the boardroom was thick with a palpable tension, a blend of desperation and forced optimism. My brother, Cashin, stood at the head of the polished obsidian table, a smug, self-satisfied smirk plastered across his face. "And so," he declared, his voice echoing with an unwarranted confidence, "after months of grueling negotiations, Viridian Holdings has secured the investment required to not only weather this storm but to emerge stronger than ever. Our future is assured." His gaze swept across the anxious faces of the remaining board members, lingering a moment on mine, a new, seemingly minor consultant brought in for a fresh perspective. He didn't know, couldn't possibly know, that his declaration of victory was, in fact, the precise moment of his ultimate defeat. My very presence in that room, my calm, almost imperceptible smile, was the first tremor of the earthquake he was about to experience. He saw a nameless face, I saw a chess piece in a game I had quietly, meticulously prepared for over a decade. My journey to that pivotal moment began in the ashes of a life my own family had set ablaze. I was 27, a single mother, holding my infant son, Orion, when the world, as I knew it, crumbled. My family, the prestigious and deeply traditional Maxwells, saw my situation not as a challenge to overcome with love and support, but as a stain, a public disgrace upon their immaculate lineage. Cashin, always the loudest voice, the enforcer of the family's rigid code, led the charge. I remember his words, sharp as shards of glass: "You have soiled our name, Lyra. You and that child are no longer part of this family. Leave, and never return." My parents, their faces hardened by years of upholding appearances, silently sanctioned his cruelty. I was cast out, penniless, with nothing but the fierce, primal love for my son. That night, as Orion slept fitfully in my arms in a cold, unfamiliar shelter, a fire ignited within me. It wasn't the wild, destructive fire of rage, but a cold, steady flame of resolve. I vowed that day, not for vengeance in the conventional sense, but for justice. I would not just survive, I would thrive. I would become so powerful, so indispensable, that the very family who had condemned me would one day kneel before the consequences of their heartlessness. My secret weapon, I realized early on, would be my mind, my unyielding focus, my capacity for strategic thinking, and my ability to see opportunities where others saw only despair. I started from the very bottom, taking any job I could find, saving every penny, and voraciously devouring every book and course on business, finance, and investment I could get my hands on. My nights were spent studying, my days working and caring for Orion. He was my anchor, my motivation, the pure, innocent face of my resolve. As I built my first small venture, an e-commerce platform that specialized in niche artisanal products, I learned the intricate dance of the market. I made mistakes, yes, but each one was a lesson, a stepping stone. My company, Ethel Incorporated, grew steadily, then exponentially. I diversified, invested wisely, and built a network of loyal, brilliant minds who saw my vision. All the while, I kept my identity as Lyra Maxwell a closely guarded secret, a ghost of a past I was determined to reshape. My name was Lyra Thorne, a new identity forged in the fires of adversity, a woman unknown to the very family whose downfall I was orchestrating. While I was meticulously constructing my empire, I kept a discreet, almost clinical watch on Viridian Holdings. Cashin, with his inherited arrogance and woefully inadequate business acumen, was slowly, but surely, running it into the ground. He made one reckless investment after another, fueled by a misguided belief in his own infallibility and the family's endless coffers. The generational wealth, once a source of their immense pride and my early undoing, was dwindling. I watched as their debt mounted, their reputation eroded, and their internal squabbles intensified. This was not a quick, emotional act of sabotage, but a methodical, patient dismantling. I didn't cheer their decline, I simply observed, identifying the precise points of leverage. Through a series of shell companies and anonymous investment firms, I began to quietly acquire Viridian's debt. First, the smaller, less noticeable tranches, then larger, more significant portions. No one suspected a thing. Why would they? I was Lyra Thorne, a benevolent, anonymous investor. To them, I was just another faceless entity in the vast, complex world of finance. I knew they were struggling, desperate for capital. My agents, under my strict directives, would occasionally throw them a lifeline, just enough to keep them from outright collapse, ensuring they remained indebted and vulnerable. Cashin, in his characteristic hubris, interpreted these timely injections of capital as proof of his own shrewdness, proof that the market believed in Viridian. He never once considered the true source, or the true motive, behind these critical lifelines. The more he struggled, the more he borrowed, the deeper he sank into the very net I had cast. By the time he was celebrating securing that investment in the boardroom, I already held more than 70% of Viridian Holdings' total outstanding debt. Effectively, I already owned them. Cashin was merely a puppet dancing on strings I controlled, completely unaware of the puppeteer. The climax was set to unfold at the emergency board meeting Cashin had called to ratify a transformative, new investment. He had flown in the key stakeholders, the remaining, increasingly nervous family members, and the few loyal, and equally deluded, board members. I was there, introduced as Ms. Thorne, a representative of the mysterious new investment consortium. Cashin, beaming, began his presentation. As you can see, this new capital injection will not only stabilize our finances but allow us to pursue aggressive expansion strategies. He paused, gesturing towards a complex financial projection on the screen, completely oblivious to his impending implosion. This deal, meticulously structured by our new partners, ensures Viridian's future for generations to come. It was my cue. I rose from my seat, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on my lips. Indeed, Cashin, I said, my voice calm, yet resonating with an authority that silenced the room. But perhaps we should clarify who these new partners truly are, and what this meticulously structured deal truly entails. Cashin's smile faltered. Ms. Thorne, with all due respect, the details are confidential. I ignored him, walking to the main screen. On the contrary, the true details are about to become very public. With a single command, the screen changed. It no longer showed Viridian's optimistic projections, but a stark, undeniable debt consolidation report. Every single loan, every line of credit, every share purchased, all consolidated under a single name. My name. Lyra Thorne. Below it, in smaller print, the legal name of my holding company, Ethel Incorporated. And then, the final, devastating blow. A digital signature, a legal document verifying my identity. My full, given name, Lyra Maxwell. The silence that followed was deafening, fractured only by Cashin's strangled gasp. His face, once triumphant, drained of all color, contorting into a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. Lyra, he whispered, as if speaking a forbidden name. One of the older board members, a distant cousin, stumbled back in his chair, eyes wide with shock. My parents, who were present via video conference, their faces suddenly gaunt and pale on the large screen, watched in stunned silence. Yes, Cashin, I confirmed, my voice steady, devoid of any emotional triumph, only the quiet satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. It's me. The disgrace who was cast out, the single mother you abandoned. I am Lyra Maxwell, and I am now the sole controlling owner of Viridian Holdings. Every single debt you accrued, every reckless decision you made, I bought it. I own it all. You, Cashin, are no longer the CEO. You are, in fact, unemployed. And the rest of you, I swept my gaze across the stunned faces, will find new employment, should my new administration see fit. Their shock quickly turned to a desperate scramble for words, for excuses, but I cut them off. This isn't a negotiation. This is a reckoning. You showed me no mercy, no compassion, no humanity when I truly needed it. Now, you will receive the same. The fallout was swift and brutal. Cashin, utterly broken, attempted to storm out, but my security detail, discreetly positioned, gently but firmly escorted him from the room. He was a shell of the arrogant man he once was, his grand pronouncements replaced by incoherent mumbles. The remaining family members, those who had once looked down on me with such disdain, now approached with trembling hands and tear-filled eyes, babbling apologies and pleas for mercy. My parents, their faces on the screen a picture of utter devastation, attempted to apologize, to explain, to rewrite history. I listened, impassively. Your apologies come a decade too late, I told them, my voice firm. You made your choice that day. Now, you live with its consequences. Viridian Holdings will be restructured, purged of all who contributed to its rot. Your names, once synonymous with power and prestige, will now simply be associated with its collapse. I wasn't cruel, I was simply just. I ensured that Cashin, along with the most corrupt board members, faced legal repercussions for their gross mismanagement and fraudulent activities. Any assets they had were seized to cover their personal liabilities. For the rest of the family, their once lavish lifestyles vanished. They were forced to confront the reality of working for a living, of being truly accountable for their decisions, stripped of the unearned privilege they had always taken for granted. This wasn't about vindictive destruction, but about a clear, decisive rebalancing of scales. They had to understand the true value of what they had thrown away, and what they had done. Years have passed since that day. Viridian Holdings, under my leadership, was meticulously rebuilt, rebranded, and repurposed, focusing on sustainable, ethical investments that truly benefit communities. It is now a beacon of corporate responsibility, a stark contrast to its former self. I rarely visit the old Maxwell estate, now repurposed into a foundation for single mothers and underprivileged children, a quiet, poetic irony. My focus remains on my work, on Ethel Incorporated, and most importantly, on Orion. He is a bright, compassionate young man, completely unaware of the dark origins of our past struggles and triumphs. I ensured he grew up knowing love, stability, and the immense strength that comes from resilience. I never told him the full story of his abandonment, only that our family had made some unfortunate choices, and that we had built our own new, better family. My journey taught me that true power isn't about inherited wealth or a prestigious name, but about an unyielding spirit and the meticulous pursuit of one's own justice. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't a fiery outburst, but the quiet, relentless construction of a life so profoundly successful and meaningful that it renders your detractors utterly irrelevant. It's about turning the pain of abandonment into the fuel for your purpose, meticulously building your own empire, and ultimately, finding peace and true power in the quiet knowing that you not only survived, but you thrived, on your own terms. Never underestimate the quiet strength of someone who has lost everything and found the courage to rebuild from the ashes.